When the tempest of your spiritual transformation calms and the dissolution of your inauthentic selves leaves you standing in a serene, unfamiliar expanse, a question emerges like a wisp of vapor from your core. What next? You've endured the plunge into the depths of your spirit's abyss. The ego has fractured, the delusions crumbled, the facade stripped away like brittle, lifeless husks. Yet survival is not the culmination. It is the gateway, the portal, the stillness following. A primal cry. Now, in this raw space, devoid of artifice, with no audience to applaud or spectacles to mark your revelation, you face the most arduous task, crafting your existence from the soul outward. Not the existence prescribed by others, nor the one molded to soothe their ease, but the one that resonates with the quiet murmurs of your essence. A great thinker once cautioned that the most daunting challenge is to wholly embrace oneself. Having glimpsed your true nature beneath the clamor, will you dare to live from that truth? Or will you be lured back into the tomb of familiarity, cloaking yourself once more in the robes of conformity to fit a world that no longer feels like yours? For this is where many stumble not in the awakening itself, but in the life that follows. They glimpse the divine and shrink back. They brush against the holy and let it slip away. But if you're still here, you must grasp that your life's work now is unification, not flawlessness, not a final state of transcendence, but completeness. And completeness, dear one, begins where fear looms largest, where the shadows still pulse with life. You've weathered your awakening. But have you confronted the silent fragments of yourself, the wounded child who equates love with suffering? The voice that yearns to roar but was taught to hush to evade scorn? Enduring the ego's collapse doesn't mean you've faced every specter. It means you're now prepared to sit with them, to meet them without recoiling, to listen without turning away. A wise philosopher taught that until the hidden becomes known, it will steer your life and you'll mistake it for destiny. Your mission now is to face the unseen orchestrator within your psyche, not to destroy or judge it, but to comprehend and weave it into your being. You must become the alchemist of your inner world, transforming the heavy weight of your pain into radiant wisdom. Each emotion that surfaces is not a misstep, but a guide. Each trigger is not a flaw, but a signal from a wound craving attention. Resist the urge to flee or to drown yourself in more teachings, more mentors, more sacred implements. The true school lies within, silent and solitary, demanding humility and unyielding truthfulness. This is not about mending. It's about becoming whole. The self, as that philosopher described, the entirety of your conscious and unconscious being is not found solely in light, but in the marriage of opposites. Your darkness is not your foe. Your rage, your guilt, your envy, they are not obstacles, but pathways. To tread this road is to reject the polished, hollow versions of healing peddled by those who skirt the depths and instead embrace the raw, holy labor of facing your unadorned soul, not once, but daily, hourly, until presence becomes your discipline. And truth your only refuge. Yet the world will not grasp you. It will not cheer your clarity or reward your genuineness. You'll see those still slumbering, and a quiet pang will stir, not because they're mistaken, but because you once walked among them. Old dialogues now feel hollow, the clamor of societal demands like interference in your nerves. You'll crave depth as you crave breath. Solitude will become sacred, silence your haven. You may feel alone, but you are not isolated. This journey has always unfolded in quiet corners, not throngs. The paradox is that awakening strips away what you thought essential validation, roles, identities, and leaves you with nothing but presence. At first, that presence feels overwhelming, for it does not dull. It intensifies, incinerating every falsehood you once used as a shield. But keep burning, the flame is divine. In time, something new will rise, not exhilaration, not bliss, but a calm, a stillness, a profound affirmation within you. You won't need to persuade others or justify your way. You'll simply live it quietly, truly, especially when no one notices. In this silent commitment to truth, a new strength emerges, not to dominate others, but to remain steadfast to yourself in a world that thrives on your forgetfulness. From here, your path shifts to embodiment. Your beliefs must take form. Your principles must become actions. Knowing the truth is not enough, you must live it. To embody your awakening is to act with integrity when unseen, to speak when your voice trembles, to walk away from what poisons you, even if it's familiar. It's choosing alignment over attachment, no matter the price. You'll be tempted to polish your truth, to make it acceptable, consumable, appealing, resist, let it be unrefined, let it be misjudged. Your soul didn't arrive to be admired. It came to be expressed. The process of becoming oneself, as that philosopher noted, is a radical defiance of the collective's ease. It unsettles the group's comfort, but frees others by example. You need not proclaim, just be. In being, you become a mirror, a quiet invitation for others to recall their essence beneath the noise. That's how light travels, not through preaching, but through presence, through one soul choosing wholeness over pretense. Authenticity over security. The journey doesn't end with revelation. It begins with living it. Don't hoard insights like treasures. Wear them, let them bleed into your daily existence. Only then will you see your awakening was no accident but a summons. You must birth your soul repeatedly, each time the world tempts you back into oblivion. You'll feel it, the subtle pull of forgetfulness, the allure of old habits. This is the second peril, the death of awareness. Awakening gave you sight, but keeping it requires devotion, not rigidity, but dedication. Surround yourself with anchors of your emerging self, nature, art, stillness, souls who speak truth. Not flattery, words that cut, not comfort. When you stumble, as you will, do so mindfully. Study the shape of your triggers, trace their roots, embrace your shadow rather than battling it. Dance with your paradoxes. You're not here to be flawless. You're here to be whole. Let that truth free you from the cage of perfection. Healing is not a straight path, but a spiral. Each revisit to your wounds is not a step back, but a deeper calling. Let the work be raw, human, but never forsaken. The self is not a goal, but an unfolding, and you are the keeper of its sacred flame. You've endured your awakening. Now live as though it matters. Let your choices echo the truth you've touched. Your relationships reflect the clarity you've gained. Your silence carry more weight than your words. When the world beckons you to sleep, smile not with superiority, but with understanding. For you've been there, and now you're here, not above, just awake. You'll still ache, still lose, still be humbled by love, grief, and life's unbearable beauty. But you'll no longer flee or betray yourself to belong. You'll choose presence even when it stings, feeling even when it shatters you. For you know now that this shattering is sacred, this vulnerability is truth. This path, though solitary and narrow, is the only one worth treading. It leads not to solutions, but to presence, to depth, to the exquisite privilege of being fully alive. So breathe, rise, embody. You are not lost or broken, you are becoming. The world craves what only an awakened soul can offer, not more knowledge, not more performance, but more truth, more presence, more you. Keep going. You are the remedy. Soon, perhaps unexpectedly, the dust of your transformation will settle, and you'll gaze at the life you once constructed, careers, habits, connections, aspirations, and feel like a stranger within it. Not because it's wrong, but because you are no longer its architect. You've survived the unraveling of your former self, and now comes the harder task, building something authentic in its place. But beware, this rebuilding is not about betterment, but about truth. The urge will be to reconstruct hastily, to escape the unease of uncertainty. Pause, this liminal space. This sacred pause holds more wisdom than countless teachings. A great mind called it the dark voyage, where the self dissolves and the psyche drifts unmoored. In this space between what was and what will be, transformation takes root. So linger in the unknown, let your unclouded intuition begin to trace the outlines of a life rooted not in expectation but in truth. There's no guidebook here, only your inner compass. Fragile at first, but growing steadier with each act of self-trust, each boundary set, each truth spoken, each refusal that honors your affirmation. You're not rebuilding for the world, but for your soul, which demands nothing less than sincerity. Here, old wounds will vie for dominance. They don't vanish with awakening, they evolve, masquerading as new prospects, echoing through fresh connections. They test your alignment, not by your knowledge, but by how deeply you live your understanding. The ego, once broken, grows sly, whispering of your healing just before luring you back to familiar toxins disguised as affection. Stay watchful. The shadow doesn't fade, it adapts. Your task is not to banish it, but to walk alongside it, eyes wide open. Wholeness, as that thinker said, comes not from severing parts of yourself, but from weaving them together. See your patterns as invitations, not curses. If pain persists, it's not fate, but a wound still calling for your gaze. Healing is layered, not linear. Each return to pain is a chance for reconciliation with yourself. Let each hurt teach you, each pang reflect you, and don't rush. Depth requires patience. The soul unfolds in the slow tending of truth. This is the time of refinement, of living discernment, of releasing the need for external validation and choosing to see yourself clearly. You'll realize, perhaps with pain, that some cannot journey with you now. Some are anchored to your past, cherishing the smaller, compliant version of you. As you grow, some will feel betrayed, not by your actions, but by your evolution. Don't shrink to ease their unease or dim to soothe their fears. Your transformation is no offense, it's your birthright. Though it may cost you intimacy, it will grant you clarity. There will be days of sorrow, loneliness, and longing for the simplicity of old illusions. Let them flow through you like tempests. You're not meant to evade these feelings, but to endure them consciously. This is your initiation. To become your true self, you must release who you no longer are, a release that feels like death because it is. Yet in that death, something ancient stirs. You begin to know yourself not by roles, but by depth, choosing connections that mirror your inner truth. Speaking not for approval, but because silence would betray your soul. This is the alchemy of awakening. Not transcendence, but embodiment. Not fleeing the world, but returning with truth carved into your essence. The world will offer escapes, comforts, distractions, dreams cloaked as illusions, but you'll see them clearly, not because you've mastered life, but because you've met yourself. Once you do, pretense becomes unbearable. Your body rejects falsehood, your spirit resists compromise, your nerves crave peace over performance. This feels like loss because the world you once knew grows distant, alien. Small talk becomes tedious, superficiality grating, the pace of a society obsessed with output and acclaim exhausting. But this isn't isolation, it's the dawn of true belonging to the earth, to your soul, to the few who see you for who you are, not what you provide. Let your life become sacred, your rituals honest, your rest a quiet rebellion. In a world that glorifies exhaustion, choosing presence is defiance. Each return to yourself through breath, stillness, unflinching self-examination deepens your awakening's roots. This is how you become uncheckable, not flawless but fiercely. Fully present, you're not here to blend in, but to remember, to embody, to rise. In doing so, you become a beacon for others lost in their storms, not because you hold all answers, but because you dare to ask the right questions and live them boldly. There comes a moment after the collapse, the silence, the slow rebuilding, where you no longer need to justify yourself, not to others, not to the doubting voices within. The questions that once plagued you, why am I this way? What's wrong with me? When will I fit in? Dissolve like fog at dawn. Not because you've found answers, but because you've stopped needing them. You see, life wasn't asking you to repair yourself, but to become yourself. This subtle shift marks the true start of integration. You no longer perform healing for others' eyes or mistake insight for supremacy. You return as presence, speaking only when truth demands it. You embody the wounded healer, not free of scars, but holding them with grace. The greatest gift you offer is not perfection, but wholeness, forged from pain, shadow, awakening, and the choice to live truthfully, even when it costs what once felt safe. Life grows quieter, yet more vivid. You notice what you once overlooked, the tailies carried by the breeze, the power of a single breath to redirect a moment, the soul's language and symbols, dreams, sensations. You're no longer chasing distant enlightenment, but savoring the holiness of now. Even suffering gains meaning, not because it fades, but because you've ceased resisting its teachings. You no longer ask, Why me? But what is this revealing? This shift transforms you from victim to witness, seeker to seer. You move through life like a dreamer, awake to illusions yet unbound by them. This clarity isn't cold, it's tender, compassionate. Having traversed your inner shadows, you see others' pain as a mirror, not a threat. You stop trying to fix them, instead holding space, trusting their path is sacred too. The totality of your conscious and unconscious being becomes not a concept but your reality. You feel it when you face the mirror without flinching, when silence feels like presence, when you say no without guilt and yes without pretense. This is wholeness, not perfection, not constant calm, but a rootedness untouched by the world's chaos. Your energy speaks before your words. Your boundaries stand without defense. Your presence shifts spaces not by effort but by alignment. Alignment isn't chased, it's remembered, a return to a truth never lost, only buried beneath fear and noise. You walk unmasked, and though the world may view you with confusion, admiration, or unease, it no longer touches your core. You've reclaimed your name, not society's label, but the one your soul whispers in stillness. Creativity returns, not as performance, but as a natural outpouring. You write, speak, dance, create not for applause, but because it flows from within. The barriers of repression crumble and authenticity surges forth. You no longer fear misunderstanding or solitude. Solitude becomes your teacher, the space where love deepens. Relationships shift, you seek not completion but reflection, not masks but mirrors. You recognize kindred souls instantly, not by words but by their presence, their ease in silence. These are the ones who've also endured, and in their company no explanation is needed. The soul recognizes, the body recalls. This rekindles an ancient truth. Awakening is solitary yet collective. We wake alone but walk in resonance, not to save but to see each other. Here you stand, not at the end, but at a new beginning, born not of desperation but of presence, driven not by fear but by alignment. You've become the watcher of your mind, the companion of your shadow, allowing yourself to simply be. You've survived the blaze and now carry its light, not to dazzle but to guide, not to impose truth but to live it so fully it carves a path by example. You're not here to persuade or escape, but to recall the world's sacredness, even its chaos, its pain, its beauty. Within the mess lies the miracle, the spark of transformation. You've touched that spark, emerging from the dark with clarity, not certainty. Presence, not answers. And that is enough. Now you're called to the hardest task, to live simply, deeply, honestly, to choose the mundane over performance, to wash dishes with reverence, to walk through forests, to listen, to love for the sake of opening, to exist as presence, not a role. This is true spiritual maturity, not floating above life, but sinking into it with grace, unshaken by chaos because your roots run deeper than its noise. The final stage of awakening lies not in seclusion or grandeur, but in how you engage with the ordinary, how you sit with a stranger, speak to a child, breathe when unseen. Your life becomes the message, not your words, not your image, but your being. In this quiet becoming, you realize nothing was ever missing. The peace, the presence, the knowing it was always there, beneath the striving. You had to break to remember, to empty, to hear, to lose, to find home. Release the notion of arrival. There is no finish line, only deepening, softening, more layers to shed, more masks to release. You'll revisit wounds and uncover new wisdom, outgrow old truths as your soul expands. Let it unfold through mystery, through contradiction. Don't fear feeling lost again. Those moments are invitations, not setbacks. Life will humble you, strip you, soften you, not to punish, but to prepare you to hold more light. And with that light comes responsibility, not to shine for others, but to stay true when the world tempts you to perform. You owe your transformation to no one. You need not justify your healing, only live it, quietly, unapologetically. In doing so, you become what the world craves: authenticity, depth, truth. You'll lose the urge to convince others, not from indifference but from wisdom. Awakening can't be forced. It's a sacred unraveling, chosen or accepted. Some aren't ready, and that's okay. Your role is not to save, but to radiate, to be so fully yourself that your presence opens doors for others when they're ready. There's no haste, no race, each soul blooms in its time. Though the world may seem broken, you see differently now. Every collapse holds rebirth, every ending a beginning. You no longer fear the unknown, it's where your soul speaks clearest. It's home. From here you create not just art, but a life that nourishes, that mirrors your soul's depth, that declares its truth without shouting. This is the gift of surviving awakening, not escaping pain, but meeting it with presence. Not finding eternal joy, but dancing with sorrow without losing your center, not becoming perfect, but becoming whole. You hold joy and grief together, strong yet soft, boundaried yet open. You are no longer fragmented, no longer playing roles, just you, and that is enough. In a world of facades and noise, your truth, your presence is what matters. You may never be celebrated or understood, but if you are real, rooted in your soul, you've already triumphed. This is awakening, not a single moment, but a daily choice to live, love, and stay awake, especially when it hurts. Breathe it in, let it resonate. You're not broken or late, you're remembering. Beneath the fear, the quiet voice of yourself waits, ready, whispering, welcome home.